Power of Pika's Best to work for you. If you're an advertiser, call 671-888-7346 for information, rates, and packages. And let us get your message out to Pika's Best listeners with Pika's Best broadcasters. And thanks for listening to Pika's Best. Attention investors, Century 21 Realty Management is proud to present an investment opportunity you have to look at. Ladera Towers Condominium provides luxury living centrally located in Manila with access to the entire island. Ladera Towers has 3-bedroom condominium units available now. See them before they're all gone. 4-bedroom units sold out. This investment is only going to appreciate in value. Call now, Century 21 Realty Management. The number is 647-5003 or visit laderatowerguam.com or guamproperties.com.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So here we go on a Tuesday afternoon for another exciting, elucidating episode, educational episode of Tall Tales. I'm going to start out with Demi Cotney, of course, and Daily News better be careful. We're going to get a blue star here one of these days. Here's the title of today's editorial. Our view, Gov Guam's record of maintenance doomed as smart park idea. Guam residents and visitors have been spared $50 million debacle of a smart park at Ipoh Beach, an unpopular idea from the start. The Visitors Bureau proposal called spending American rescue funds to develop Ipoh Beach into the Etano Famagoan Smart Park. The Etano. The, right? Yeah, a technological theme park that would have showcased the island's cultural heritage. They probably would have hired Dave Lotz as a technical consultant on that one. But the public had its own idea about Ipoh. We enjoy our barbecues, employee picnics, birthday parties, and concerts at the park. We like tossing around a football with our kids in the same place where our parents toss the football to us. We enjoy sitting on the beach, cooling off in the bay, snorkeling and relaxing in low-tech nature. Sentimentality aside, there's a bigger reason the park proposal was a flop in the public's minds. We simply do not trust that anything created or acquired by the government of Guam will be maintained in operable condition for any length of time. Why this lack of confidence? Look around. Look at Guam Memorial Hospital in disrepair for years, and politicians continue to argue about whether repairing or rebuilding is the best solution. Yeah, let's just talk about Guam Memorial for a minute here. You know, the old Guam Memorial was a wreck. So in 1975, Bishop Flores decided he needed to do something about it. So he was able to pull together enough money, financing, etc., to spend $25 million on what was called Medical Center of the Marianas, which in 1975 was an up-to-date functioning hospital. So in typical GovGuam fashion, we figured, well, instead of fixing ours, we'll just buy that one, which is what happened. And it didn't take too long before the new hospital, the former Medical Center of the Marianas, really resembled the old hospital, Guam Memorial Hospital. And then we left the ruins of the old Guam Memorial Hospital standing for another 20 years before we finally decided what to do with it. And the ultimate destination was nothing. We've got extremely valuable real property sitting on that cliff up there, earning us not a penny's worth of income. Look at Simon Sanchez High School, similarly set by maintenance problems. Now, the story I remember on Simon Sanchez High School is back in my teaching days, we didn't have air-conditioned classrooms. The only air-conditioned rooms in the high school were the principal's office and the teacher's lounge. The hell with the students.
Right.
Yeah. So the rumor was around that the government was going to build a new high school in Jigo. And this would be a revolution because the new high school would be completely air-conditioned. And because it was air-conditioned, no windows. Did that happen? It happened. How long did the complete air conditioning last? Not very long. How long did the no windows last?
Not very long.
Ask the governor, Jose. How long did the no windows last?
Forever!
Yeah. So there's no windows to open. You can't open the windows when the aircon doesn't work because there's no windows to open.
There's a water feature, but only when it rains.
Yeah. Take a look at the Hagatnya pool or the Dadido pool. I don't remember that the Dadido pool was ever opened.
It was eye candy, and I've never heard, maybe once or twice.
Yeah, I remember driving by there. There was a big slide. My granddaughter, great-granddaughter, Grandpa, can you take me to go down I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Oh, it works. I've seen it. But, of course, it never worked. And I don't know that the pool was ever open. You couldn't prove it by me. But it's a really nice pool. And the Agania pool, of course, has sat with no water in it now for years. How can we possibly maintain a smart park if we can't maintain a swimming pool? Wade through the flooding parking lot at Matapang Beach or drive by Enilahan Pools. The park is still closed. Have a look at the abandoned community police Kobans. Or, let's talk about the Kobans for a minute. Now, let me tell you what a Koban is. If you've ever been to Japan, they're called, you could call them police boxes. They're ordinarily square, probably modular buildings built in neighborhoods where there is high pedestrian traffic. And there are desks and phones and radios and things like that for the cops, but it's very easy for a pedestrian to stroll up to a Koban and do whatever he needed to do with the cops.
Like a Wild West outpost.
Sort of like that, except they're not out on the plains. They're in downtown Shinbone. So we got the bright idea that we should have Kobans here. So the first one was built down in Ipoh Beach. Made a certain amount of sense. A lot of foot traffic down there, right? And then that morphed into 2 Kobans. And then our legislators, in their sense of barnyard equity fairness, said, if we're going to have Kobans down on the beach, we should have one in every village. And we started out to build them in every village. And, of course, they're no good where there's no pedestrian traffic, which is most of our villages, right? So there's a Koban out in Mangilao that was given to the Vietnam Vets Association. And there are a couple of others straggling around, just classic boondoggles. But, if we're going to have one down there in Tumum, then every village should have one. Wade through the garbage strewn or piled up in other roadside parks, overlooks, and benches. And I talked yesterday about how scenic the drive up the hill towards Senatnia used to be, because you could look out across the swamp, and it was really pretty at night with the lights on the other side of the swamp. But we decided, well, there's no sense keeping the boonies down there. Same thing with Nimitz Hill. You used to be able to drive up Nimitz Hill, and Jose, you probably don't know this, but on a clear day, you can see Luta from Nimitz Hill. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That is, you used to be able to. Now you can see Tongan from Nimitz Hill.
There's like a small window that you can see, I think, some of the port area from Nimitz Hill, or
That would be on the other side.
or there's some place, but it's only a speck because then
Yeah, there is a park
the Tonga.
heading up, and ordinarily that fits the same description as the rest of the parks. So, it's like, we're going to have company tonight, the company being our guests, our visitors. We're going to have company tonight. Let's throw garbage all over the front yard. Let's make sure the house is really messed up. Let's park our cars on the lawn. Let's make this place look really, really junky so that the visitors, tourists, will know that we really don't have to be paying a whole lot of attention to them. We're bigger than that. That's the message we're sending.
Well, it's weird. We spend a lot of money on the invitations,
Yeah,
but we don't spend a lot of money wanting them to stay here.
exactly. Yeah, we have no shortage of good ideas, wonderful projects to improve our quality of life and please our visitors. We can usually find the money to get these projects built, but after that, we run into trouble. Another example, Southern High. Southern High, I remember when it first opened and hearing the late John Anderson, may he rest in peace, describing the performing arts capabilities there, the stage, the sound system, and he said it was really, really nice. What happened to that? So now it's a home for birds. A piano is a place where birds can nest up, right? And the whole place is falling apart. We'd have been better off with a more modest school and spending some money on keeping it up to date, because it's just a white elephant is what it amounts to. Yeah, we can usually find the money to get these projects built, but after that we run into trouble. We struggle with routine maintenance and repairs. Any shortcuts taken during construction resurface as chronic problems. We know this, and that is why we hesitate, we resist when any public official wants to build anything. Yeah, okay, well, welcome back, Pacific Daily News. Here we go, Jose. Coveted Blue Star goes to the Pacific Daily News today. It's been a while, but you got one, guys. All right, let's take a look at the card. And let's see, that takes the Daily News up to 86 blue stars. Post 262, Candid 10. And this is what we've got on the card for today. After Robert Underwood discovered the existence of the Proud Boy wannabe here on the island, we did some research and came up with an artist rendering of what a Proud Boy wannabe would look like. Robert said that we've got Proud Boy wannabes in our midst. Talked about people talking on the radio, some of the things that are said. And a friend called me and said, I think he's talking about you, Bob. So my response to my friend was, Jesus, I sure hope so. So one of the things that Robert said that, he, of course, has a chronic case of TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, and he couldn't comment on the wannabes here on the island without bringing Trump into it and make America great. And he said these Proud Boy wannabes on the island are saying things like, make Guam great again. I never said that, but I've started now. Let's make Guam great again. Maybe when the firehouse demand for tall tales shuts down or calms down, maybe I'll see if I can get some Make Guam Again Great Again caps made up. So I decided that I would take that on as my mantra, make Guam great again. And every day I would tell you a new initiative that I'm following to make Guam great again. First one was combat governmental identity politics. And again, if you want to know what identity politics amounts to, read Robert's column. That's a pretty good example. But if you want some visuals, tune in on Monday when we run the Hope Cristobal show. Hope is the chairman of the Chamorro Language Commission. She is identity politics personified. She is the face and voice of the separatist movement here on the island. Second thing on my list is to advocate an efficient, effective government operating within the rule of law that provides basic government services on at least a break-even basis. Third thing, back the stationing of Marines on the island. Somebody pointed out here yesterday, when we were tearing Ginger Cruz to little pieces because, for her lack of historical knowledge and her lack of the understanding of geopolitical strategy and tactics, saying that, we were attacked not because of something we did, but because we're in American territory, which was just wrong. And the reason that foreign powers covet Guam is not because it's an American territory, but because of its
location.
3 times, Jose.
Location, location, location.
That's it, yeah. And one of the comments on Facebook was, we don't have soldiers here on the island to repel invaders. He said we got a couple hundred guardsmen. Actually, we got about 1,000 guardsmen, but they're not organized to provide an anti-invasion force. That's not their mission. And
we can't even stop Chinese immigrants on boats.
Exactly. Yeah, people in sailboats can make landings with impunity.
Our government doesn't have the fortitude to stop them either.
Exactly. So, if you're really concerned about safety, then you want that 4,000 Marines here as soon as possible. If the chunky stuff ever hits the fan, you'll be really glad they're here. So that's one of the reasons I'm backing the stationing of Marines on the island. There are a multitude of them, but that's one. 4, I'm going to continue to champion free speech. Every time the government of Guam ninches somebody, you're going to hear from me. Because I'm going to see if I can get the legislature to enact an anti-McNinch law. They finally did away with lynching in the Democrat South. Why can't we get rid of McNinching here on our island? I'm going to root out systemic racism. I'm going to encourage a free market economy and free enterprise. And number 8 on my list is I'm going to combat abortion in every way that I can, with every one of the dulcet tones of my voice here on this show, and in any other way that I can help in the ending of this barbaric, selfish practice of murdering children before they even have a chance to live. Okay, I don't have anything on 36-34 today. I'm only going to touch on Underwood versus Tall Tales so we can take another look at the Proud Boy wannabe. And then I've got Ginger Cruz versus Larry Cooper versus Separatists versus the USMC. But I'm holding off on that till tomorrow because Jose wants to work something up on Ginger Cruz tomorrow.
Most interesting.
Okay. And then I've got USA Today versus Aloha, a little bit more speech control here. China versus Guam with Admiral Nicholson. Now, this has been on the card for quite some time, and it's kind of been overcome by some of the other things we've talked about, but it bears repeating. I've got Malta versus free speech. Malta is an enchanting place. It's a small island literally in the middle of the Mediterranean between Sicily and North Africa. It was a British colony for a long, long time. It's an extremely interesting place, very modern, very up-to-date, a lot of farming, a beautiful downtown. but they're as woke as the rest of Europe, unfortunately. Then I've got Kamala versus the Declaration of Independence. Anytime you can catch Kamala saying anything, you know it's Tall Tales material.
She's a vegetarian. She uses a lot of word salads.
Then I've got Equity versus Meritocracy from Dr. B and his Sunday column, Dr. B. And then Waterworks versus Cortec, Rick Moran versus Pete Butt, Lou and the Democrats versus Life, Russia versus Ukraine, and I don't know that I'll ever get that far, but they're there. Okay, let's take a short break and we'll talk briefly about systemic racism.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Since 1959, and they will continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $4,100 by calling Family Finance in Hagåtña at 671-475-4545, Upper Tumon 671-647-5626, or in Dededo 671-633-4473.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
So there we go with systemic racism. Now you know what the drill is here. Everybody knows that the rice is, in fact, orange. But when Paul Zerzan called the attention of the Daily News readers to the fact that it's orange and not red, he was canceled because the narrative says the rice is red. We don't care what color it really is. We've been saying red rice ever since. And I use this as an analogy to describe what we're dealing with on the show all the time. Abortion isn't the murder of a helpless, innocent human. Abortion is just a woman's protecting her own bodily integrity, having the freedom to do with what she wants to do with her own body. So the second thing there is the rice is red. The actual truth is the rice is orange. So I do this all the time. And it's caught on. Tim has picked up on it over at Jungle Watch. And he ran a really good post on Jungle Watch challenging the ancientness of Chamorro abortionists. And Michael Bavacqua wrote a column saying, well, you know, abortion is part of the Chamorro culture. I don't know if he was just pandering to Dave Lotz on that one or what, but and then he, in his guise as a faux historian, he said, you know, back during the Spanish, they did this, that, and the other thing. And he quoted from an article by a guy named, professor named Don Rubenstein. And he plucked out the one paragraph that kind of went with his narrative. And Tim called him out because Tim said, you should have read the rest of the article because here's what it's really all about. And what it was really all about was not women's autonomy, but desperation caused by the yoke of Spanish colonialism, which is something that Bavacqua only talks about if it's American colonialism, not Spanish colonialism. So Tim really called him out on that one. And so not only did Tim set the record straight on Chamorros and abortion, he set the record straight on whether or not Bavacqua is actually a historian. Now, Bavacqua has his own website, and the Tim article was posted on Bavacqua's website, and it got some pretty interesting comments. And you might want to go and take a look at it right now, except for one thing. It ain't there. And if you want to find out a little bit more about why it's not there, go to Jungle Watch and look for the comment by R. Carl. So when somebody came along and showed that Bavacqua didn't know what he was talking about, that obviously required censorship. So just like Twitter and Facebook and the others, there's free speech on Bavacqua's website, so long as you don't contradict Bavacqua. Then it's not so free anymore.
What was interesting is there was a soft attack on Souder also in the comments. That she doesn't know what she's talking about. And that's probably had a lot to do with why it got deleted.
Really?
Yeah, but you know what's funny is there's a thing in the entertainment industry called retconning. You've heard it before, where they have a character or a series and they change something a little bit, hoping that the audience doesn't see it. And most often than not, the people see it. They just don't say anything about it. But I believe that there must have been some words between the two, and it had to be erased or had to be deleted.
Between Souder and Bavacqua.
Sounds like it. Why else would you want to retcon a whole conversation?
Well, because it showed that Bavacqua has no clothes, that he didn't know what he was talking about, that he can't be regarded as a serious historian. That had to have some effect on what he did.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I saw it before it got deleted.
Did you?
So that was very interesting. I wish I took a screen cap.
All right, from now on, I think that's what we got to do.
Has to be, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next is Underwood versus Tall Tales. And I've spent too much time on this already, but the title is Underwood, We Might Not Have Proud Boys on Guam, but we have wannabes. So let's show the folks what a wannabe is, Jose. That is a manatee. Manatees are mammals that live in places like the Florida Everglades. And you'll notice you got something blocking the... Oh, no, you don't. You'll notice he's got a kind of a broad, flat tail like a beaver, and fins like a seal, and a face kind of like a seal. And then there's the wallaby, who is purely terrestrial and lives in Australia. He's got a long tail, pretty well-developed hind legs, very short legs, and not in this picture, but female wallabies have pouches where they carry their joeys, a joey being a baby kangaroo. So when Robert unearthed the possibility that we have Proud Boy wannabes on Guam, I went out to see if we could do an artist rendering of what you would have if you crossbred a wannabe, as you were a wallaby, with a manatee. And here's what we came up with. There it is, the Proud Boy wannabe. That would make a nice T-shirt too, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I have yet to see one around the island, but I hear that there could be some up there by Anderson.
Possible, yeah, it's possible.
Because the military does a good job of keeping the
wildlife.
Wildlife, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So the last here's a paragraph from Underwood's column. Are there any Proud Boys closer to home? The answer is that there are clearly Proud Boy wannabes. We can hear them on the radio, and some proclaim that they want to make Guam great again. So I guess if you were out in the boonies and you had a good sound system, you could pick up the call of the Proud Boy wannabe, and it would sound like this: "Make Guam great again, make Guam great again." So I'm going to try it. Make Guam great again. That's for me. I'm all for that. Okay, yesterday we talked about Ginger Cruz versus Ken Cooper Nurse, and Jose is going to come back and do a reprise on that one tomorrow. Next on the card is China versus Guam, and this is something, some pretty old news, I think, that with expanded contract, future Guam Aegis site moves forward and will be integrated with IAMD capability. The U.S. Missile Defense Agency has awarded Lockheed Martin Rotary and Mission Systems of Morristown, New Jersey, an undefinitized contract for the future Aegis Guam system. The announcement was made by the Department of Defense on December 28. The contract, with a not-to-exceed value of $527.7 million, when inclusive of all options, was awarded as a sole source hybrid cost incentive fee and cost plus fixed fee modification of previously awarded contract. Now, it doesn't say that the governor's concierge negotiated this contract. Maybe that's in a later release, right? The award increases the total value of the base contract from $811 million to $1,237 million. The Department of Defense stated that when implemented, the UCA would expand performance of the Aegis weapon system by incorporating integral air and missile defense and capabilities into the Aegis Guam system. Although the terminology referring to a potential air and missile defense installation on Guam has shifted around in recent years, Forecast International believes this award is in support of a long gestating BMD capability requirement that is now most commonly referred to as Homeland Defense Radar Guam, or HDRG. In some ways, HDRG could be seen as having its roots in a now canceled program known as Pacific Discriminating Radar. Originally envisioned as the next generation missiles defense capable enhancer alongside the long-range discrimination radar installed at Clear Space Force Station, Alaska. Support for the PDR eventually waned, and according to the Department of Defense fiscal 21 budget estimates released in February 2020, the MDA ceased requesting forward funding for the program. Effectively, the PDR was closed. Unlike all Aegis ashore facilities constructed to date, which have utilized the venerable Spy-1 radar, the iteration in Guam would utilize Lockheed Martin's next generation Aegis radar, the Spy-7. The Spy-7 should be noted is itself derived from Lockheed Martin's work in the past. Collectively, Lockheed Martin has sometimes referred to these radars as solid-state radar family. The proposed Aegis ashore located on Guam was at one time visualized as utilizing a 4 Spy-7 array panel configuration, making it capable of 360-degree detection. It's possible that the arrays could be upscaled from the version that Lockheed Martin unsuccessfully proposed for Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, since the SB-7 arrays are actually a composite of a number of modular subarray panels. Going on, Japan, under a U.S. foreign military sales effort, provided Lockheed Martin with preliminary rounds of funding for creation of a Spy-7 compatible Aegis ashore. The country had plans to install 2 Spy-7 Aegis ashores, but eventually ran into issues with spiraling funding requirements. For the purposes of recently announced award, the MDA is obligating an initial round of $11.4 million in fiscal 2023. Lockheed Martin's work will be performed in Morristown, etc. So you can see that the Department of Defense is very serious in providing a missile defense for our island of Guam. And the next thing I've got in this item here is war games show Guam is likely target if China takes Taiwan. We know that. We already know that. We know that China will lose. Taiwan will be severely damaged. The Chinese will see it within their interest to taking out Andersen Air Force Base as part of their attack on Taiwan. Now, I just read where we are with the missile defense system, and I have an article that ran quite some time ago in the Daily News, a gift from a speech by Admiral Nicholson. And the Admiral says, we're well postured to deter aggression in the region. The commander of military forces in Guam said the Department of Defense is in good position to deter any aggression from China and other regional threats. If a China-U.S. conflict erupts over Taiwan, Guam would be a very likely target of Chinese missile strikes, according to a war game report. Rear Admiral Benjamin Nicholson, commander of Joint Region Marianas, provided a written statement when asked for comment about the results and possible response efforts should war break out. Quote, with regard to our island home in Guam, as a senior military official here, my team and I have worked closely with our elected officials and stakeholders to ensure a deeper understanding of the military's role in the region, defending the homeland against coercion and aggression. CSIS War Game Report anticipated Andersen Air Force Base generally being crippled by Chinese missile strikes. Here's more quote. Guam has always been a key strategic location for sustaining and maintaining U.S. power, military deterrence, and responding to crises across the Indo-Pacific. Nicholson said, while our current forces are capable of defending Guam against today's threats, it's clear that the regional threat, including from China, continues to rapidly evolve. He said the Department of Defense in the region remains well postured to provide military forces, if needed, to deter aggression, reassure allies and partners, and protect the security of our beautiful home in the Guam region. So I don't think it's time to start doing heavy-duty worrying about the Chinese sending rockets to Andersen Air Force Base, or about another invasion like December 10, 1941. And, of course, when the Marines, boots on the ground, actually start moving in 1 year, 2024, I think the cause for worrying will be much diminished. Okay, next on the card is Malta versus free speech. And this ran in LifeSite News, good publication. It says, ex-gay threatened with jail time, fines for testifying about leaving homosexuality.
So their own personal story is getting canceled.
Yep.
Because it's not woke enough.
No, and if you were a homosexual and you decided, I'm going to stop doing that, and you say it, hate speech.
How dare you?
After a Christian charity worker who walked away from homosexuality following his conversion to Christ offered his powerful testimony on a radio show, law enforcement threatened him with possible jail time and a stiff fine for allegedly breaching his country's law banning LGBT conversion practices. The Maltese government's action against Matthew Grech, 33, is believed to be the first of its kind and is being viewed as a test case by free speech groups and Christian organizations that aim to protect the rights of former gays and lesbians to tell their stories and live freely without harassment from LGBT groups. Some of the latter assert that Christian teaching on marriage and debates surrounding LGBT lifestyles must be treated as criminal offenses. Grech's message is simple. A decade ago, he experienced conversion to Christ, realized that sexual acts outside of male-female marriage are a, quote, sin, and freely chose to give up the homosexual life he had been living. If convicted, he faces up to 5 months in prison and a fine of €5,000. Grech is one of the not insignificant number of former homosexuals and transgender men and women who face increasing opposition from the media and government to telling their own often heroic stories to the public. The London-based Christian Legal Center, which is assisting in Grech's defense, explained the importance of the Lomy court case. What happens in Malta on these issues is of international significance, as Malta became the first country in the European Union to ban what LGBT lobbies describe as conversion therapy in 2016. The ripple effect is followed with other nations such as the UK and Australia using the original Maltese legislation as a blueprint for similar bans. The LGBT lobby, however, struggled to define what the imposed term conversion therapy is. No evidence has been provided to justify the bans, but instead the aggressive campaigning is aimed at criminalizing Christian beliefs on human sexuality and silencing any opposition. Ahead of the trial, Mr. Grech, who says he was shocked when the police called him out of the blue to question him, said, "Anyone who cares about freedom of speech should be alarmed by what is happening to me. If it happens to me in Malta, I assure you that it will soon be happening in the UK and other countries across the world." I was shocked when the police called me out of the blue and said they were summoning me for interrogation. The outlet I appeared on is a very small, emerging free speech platform in Malta, and I didn't think it would be treated so seriously by the Malta gay rights movement to the extent that I would be criminalized for telling my Christian testimony. It shows how determined they are to stomp out any debate or voice on these issues. I was worried for myself and what my family would think, as nothing like this has happened to me before. I'm determined, however, to raise awareness on the danger and harm that conversion therapy bans are and will cause, not just to churches and society in Malta, but all around the world. I'm committed to keep sharing my testimony because I don't want other men and women to go through what I went through in my upbringing and adolescence. I don't want them to be victims of unwanted sexual feelings. I don't want them to be robbed of the biblical side of the story around sex, sexuality, and marriage. I don't want the masses to believe born gay cannot change and allow that to go unchallenged. If we don't act now, more countries will introduce such bans as they were a charitable noble, such as they were charitable noble cause that is saving lives and works for the common good, when they are tyrannical, draconian, and will achieve the opposite of what they set out to. The conversion therapy ban is creating an ideological domino effect. The lobbies and gay rights movements behind them take a single viewpoint about human sexuality and enforce it on the entire population. It causes legal confusion, and discourages journalists from exploring the other side of the story. Many of us in the ex-LGBT ministry are experiencing increasing silence from the general press and media and are noticing a decreasing public interest in the exploration of the ex-LGBT reality, which we believe is driven by the intimidation and fear these bans are creating. Well, of course, it's not whether you are free to speak, it's whether you are free to speak that which satisfies the woke folks. All right, let's take a short break, Jose, and we'll come back to Kamala.
Join us at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro and see why they've been crowned Guam's best Chamorro food restaurant for 9 consecutive years. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tinactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet burgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña location from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for lunch, 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. for dinner, or 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. for their famous Sunday brunch.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
we want to be your partner.
Equal Opportunity Lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
Okay, so Johnny Utah points in and said that Utah provides state-sponsored conversion therapy. Good for Utah. But now, even though Utah does that, I suspect that if you went on a radio show in Salt Lake City and said conversion therapy is bunk, it doesn't work, it's harmful, etc., no one would come after you with torches and pickaxes.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay, next we've got Kamala versus the Declaration of Independence. And this one ran in Red State. It's quite something to keep up with Kamala Harris' word salad. All the things she says that are just nonsense. She said so much that is cringeworthy and just empty filler words thrown up against the wall, intending to sound profound. My colleague Mike Miller hit on this on Sunday with his piece of brilliance from Kamala. Quote, "We're going to have days, and sometimes there will be days, with immense water of rains and storms flooding, and at the same time, we are a state that has experienced for generations droughts. And we must therefore understand that the issues that are present in the climate crisis are varied, and it requires us to be present and to be in front of each of the iterations and variations that include extreme weather that produces a lot of water and extreme weather that produces drought." That's just great, isn't it? Yeah. Was it the Beach Boys? It never rains in Southern California. Yeah. The gals out there only warn you. Okay. Back to the article. If you didn't understand what she was saying, trying to say here, congratulations. I don't think anyone did. Just like with Joe Biden, there's the incoherence and then there's the lies. The things that they say just to push their political narrative, even if they're not true or they're spinning the facts. That was Kamala Harris. That's what Kamala Harris did during her abortion speech on Sunday. She ranted that some Republicans are promoting a national abortion ban. How dare they, she yelled, channeling her inner Greta Thunberg, right? How dare they, she yelled. Because they believe that it's a life, and they dare to protect life, not to advocate for the killing of unborn babies, as she does. She acted like she had the moral high ground with that Greta Thunberg-like line, when she doesn't. But Harris doesn't leave it there. She was talking about the Declaration of Independence, and she left out the very critical part. She said, she left out this part. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's not just a promise. Those are supposed to be our unalienable rights. But she left out life. That was inconvenient to the pro-abortion narrative. she was ranting about, it exposed the rant for what it was, depriving that very right of life. Of course, she also left out the endowed by the Creator part. So when Kamala talked about the Declaration of Independence, she said, among these are liberty and the pursuit of happiness, not life. You don't have any right to life. And then, of course, by not getting into the endowed by their Creator part, she's consistent with the Democrat narrative, which is you don't have any inherent rights. You don't have any natural rights. The only rights that you have are the rights that the government gives you. If it weren't the government, you wouldn't have any rights at all. And you certainly don't have a right to life. If you can make it out of the womb, maybe. But if you were the victim of an abortion and you made it out of the womb, nope, still don't have a right to life. And this lady is our vice president. And our president is just dumber than a post. I've got another one here, Biden's boners, you know.
I don't think you'll be, even if you read them twice a day, I don't think you'll get through all of the whoppers that he's given to us, the boners he's given to us all throughout his career, let alone the past 2 years.
Well, and besides that, you know, we're big on renewable energy nowadays. Yeah, our president is a renewable source of boners. Even if you get to the end, just tune in tomorrow and there'll be a fresh crop, right? Okay, we're just about up to time for the big halftime show here. Brandon Ishmael Valiz chimes in and says, Brandon takes classified information and documents seriously. Discovering documents in your home once is an accident. Twice is a coincidence. Third in the garage is ignorance. Fourth is deliberate. A fifth is espionage. People have been sent to Fort Leavenworth for way less. Yeah. I understand that the National Archives is going to lay off about half their staff. Yeah. They've subcontracted with the guy who repairs Biden's Corvette. And he's going to take over a major part of the function of the National Archives since he's got a good handle on Corvettes, right? Okay, let's break for the big halftime show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
There's been another California mass murder. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. This time, 7 people killed in Half Moon Bay, about 30 miles south of San Francisco. The victims found in 2 different locations. At the first,
deputies located 4 victims deceased with gunshot wounds. A 5th victim, also suffering from a gunshot wound, was transported to Stanford Medical Center with life-threatening injuries.
San Mateo County Sheriff Christina Corpus.
Shortly thereafter, 3 additional victims were also located deceased with gunshot wounds at a separate shooting scene.
Deputies then arrested the alleged shooter, 67-year-old Chun-Li Zhao, in the parking lot of a sheriff's office where he'd apparently gone to surrender. The shootings at 2 different agricultural sites, including a mushroom farm, where a spokesman says they have no idea who the shooter is or what his beef was. In Southern California, they're still trying to learn why an elderly man opened fire in a ballroom filled with dancers on Saturday night, killing 11.
My individual officers would like to know why. I know the families want to know why. The why is a big part of this. The problem is we may never know the why, and we have to work past that.
Monterey Park, California Police Chief Scott Weiss, the gunman in that shooting, took his own life. The White House still tight-lipped even after the discovery of additional unsecured classified documents at President Biden's home.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said the following: "We've been very clear here from this administration. The president has been very clear that he takes this very seriously when it comes to classified information, when it comes to classified documents." Meantime, on Capitol Hill, congressional lawmakers from both parties are calling out the White House for the paucity of answers and for the president putting himself in this position in the very first place.
Fox's Kevin Cork in Washington. America is listening to Fox News.
Wishing you a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year from your friends at Security Title. As we clean house for the new year, this is an excellent time to make sure the title to your land is also in order. It doesn't matter if you own a ranch in Inarajan, a house in Dededo, or a hotel in Tumon. Keeping the ownership clear promotes peace in the family and can avoid future misunderstandings. When it comes to your family property, call the professionals at Security Title. We are here to help.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
News.
The U.S. is still at its debt limit, but so far, no plans to pass an increase.
It's a staring contest risking fiscal fallout. Democrats demand Republicans unveil their spending cuts. Republicans insist on deep reductions. Even fiscal hawks caution that GOP aspirations are too lofty.
If you wanted to balance the budget in the next 10 years, you'd have to cut about $7 trillion in spending. And that means you have to make substantial cuts to things people care a lot about.
That includes Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, accounting for 70% of all federal spending. That's why no one wants to cut programs which cost the most.
Fox's Chad Pergram at the Capitol. Lawmakers in California are pushing legislation to impose a new tax on the state's wealthiest residents, even if they've moved out of state years ago. The additional 1.5% tax would be on worldwide wealth, things like collectibles, stocks, and hedge funds investments. Some financial analysts say the new law would only hasten the exit of wealthy Californians. Vermont's Supreme Court has ruled that non-citizens may continue to vote in municipal elections in the state's capital city of Montpelier, ruling the constitutional provision that bars non-citizens from voting does not apply to local elections. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has formally stepped down from that job.
I've experienced such love, compassion, empathy and kindness when I've been in this job. That has been my predominant experience. So I leave feeling gratitude for having this wonderful role for so many years.
Ardern was New Zealand's youngest ever prime minister when she was elected in 2017. She shocked her country last week, announcing her plans to step aside. A Roman Catholic priest accused of collecting thousands of child pornography images while serving overseas and then bringing them back to the States is headed to prison. Reverend William McCandless of Wilmington, Delaware, 3 years in federal prison. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News.
Join us at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro and see why they've been crowned Guam's best Chamorro food restaurant for 9 consecutive years. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tinactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet burgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña location from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for lunch, 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. for dinner, or 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. for their famous Sunday brunch.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Looking for a new home or that special place to spend your retirement? Century 21 Realty Management has the place for you. Ladera Towers Condominium in Manila. Luxury living you deserve. Amenities like a gourmet kitchen, a large jacuzzi tub, private lanai with a magnificent ocean view, and 24/7 security. Other amenities, large swimming pool, couple of tennis courts, 3-bedroom condo units are available right now. This is an opportunity you should look at now before they're all gone. Call us now at Century 21 Realty Management, 647-5003, or visit the website, LaderaTowerGuam.com or GuamProperties.com.
Here we are entering the second half of Tall Tales. Jose, tell them how they can do it.
Absolutely, Bob. They can go to the Points the Points website at thepoint.gu. Go to the picture of the I'm a Tailgater t-shirt sporting the beard. Click on that link. Order the t-shirt. When the t-shirt arrives, put it on, take a selfie, and then send that selfie to the Points WhatsApp at 671-797-8255. And that Rogues Gallery that just got played, you too can be included in that.
Wow, what a treat. What a wonderful thing, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so back, starting the second half here, next item on the card is Equity versus Meritocracy, featuring Dr. B. But I start out with an article, as you a column from my favorite, Jonathan Turley. And Jonathan's column of January 21 headline reads, Reimagining Undergraduate Mathematics with Structural Disruptions. Vanderbilt professor denounces the math field as racist. Now, we've seen this before, haven't we?
Yes, I think I read the article.
We recently discussed a professor who declared that astrophysics is racist due to its focus on individualism and exceptionalism. These critiques are part of a larger movement alleging that everything from math to meritocracy is racist. The latest controversy centers around a lecture by Luis Leiva, Associate Professor of Mathematics Education at Vanderbilt University, entitled Undergraduate Mathematics Education as a White, Cis, Heteropatriarchal Space and Opportunity. And opportunities for structural disruption to advance queer of color justice. In other words, math is racist, a racist field of studying advancing white male, straight, conforming to assigned sex individuals. Leiva's lecture was given on January 4 in Boston at the Joint Mathematics Meeting 2023. Leiva advocates the reimagining of undergraduate mathematics education with structural disruptions that advance justice for learners marginalized across intersections of race, gender, and sexuality. This is part of a growing movement across the country. We previously discussed the view of University of Rhode Island and Director of Graduate Studies of History, Eric Loomis, that science, statistics, and technology are all inherently racist. Others have agreed with that view, including denouncing math as racist or a tool of whiteness. There are also calls for the decolonization of math as a field. Leva does not address meritocracy, which has been denounced by others. The controversy over meritocracy recently enveloped Virginia high schools after various schools admitted to withholding national merit awards. Some parents alleged they were told the withholding awards was to support efforts towards greater equity in schools. So what this comes down to, I'm going to stop here and let's put it this way. Let's say you've got a class of 30 kids. Now, with 30 kids, if they are heterogeneously grouped, you're going to have a couple really smart ones, and you're going to have a couple really dumb ones. You're going to have a couple probably IQ ranges up in the high 20s, low 30s, and you're probably going to have a couple of the IQ ranges down in the 80s, right? So the way we've always done things before, which must make it right? It's the way we've always done it. The ones who do very well in the class get promoted. They are often are able to take advantage of certain opportunities because they're smart. Businessmen want to hire smart people because, as a general principle, they can make more money. Now, ordinarily, the couple on the bottom, the two anchor men down there, probably have a hard time with all their studies. And they probably have a hard time getting a job, and they probably have a hard time, leading really good lives. So what we want to do here, according to Leva, is we want to make the benchmark down there around the two dummies. And the best that anyone could do in the class, if the two dummies take a test, a 10-item test, and get one right, then the best that the two guys on the top can do, and he gets a 10% for it, the only thing they can hope for is 10%, all in the name of equity. Because if you don't do it that way, the two dummies are going to feel bad. It's not fair. It's racist, right? And then if you crank in identity politics here, if you can find that the two dummies belong to any one of the marginalized groups, the sex marginalized by sex or race or color or whatever, then this justifies everything you're doing. Because that's really what it boils down to. Mathematics is unlike some of the other disciplines. Mathematics, the principles of mathematics are eternal. They've always been there. And we're very gradually unlocking all of the different, what have been secrets for a long, long time of mathematics and figuring out how that whole system works. It's not a man-made system. No one created mathematics. Maybe God did, right? So people who have spent a lot of time with mathematics have been able to master certain parts of it and even maybe discover things about math that we didn't know before. But it takes people with a lot of G2, something between their ears, except avoirdupois tissue. That means fat, Jose.
Okay, a big head.
Yeah. But in the name of inclusion, equity, inclusion, diversity, and equity, we've got to abandon all these ideas. So, if all of the kids take the test, equity demands that no one gets a higher grade than the lowest grade anyone achieved on the test. That's equity. And if not, it's racism.
So is a building that's perfectly constructed a racist building?
It is, yeah. Because, engineering, surveying, all depends on mathematics, and not only mathematics, but mathematical accuracy. You can't be off very far. I suppose the way we would do that, if we were going to build a building, we'd take someone who had minimal knowledge of engineering, let him draw up the plans and do the measuring. Otherwise, it'd be racist because everyone didn't have a chance, right? Various teachers and professors have objected that meritocracy is a tool of white supremacy. For example, Allison Collins, the vice president of the San Francisco Board of Education, declared meritocracy to be racist. Meritocracy, in other words, we recognize merit and we reward it. Racist. Now, if nothing else, isn't this the soft bigotry, the soft bigotry of low expectations? If you are part of the oppressed group, we can't expect you to do as well as the white folks. Therefore, we won't expect it.
So I'm never going to need to do any better than I already am because you guys told me I'm already going to fail.
That's right. Exactly. As we've previously discussed, this has been a building campaign in academia as educators and others denounce selection based on academic performance through testing. Most cities have such gifted programs or institutions, though we have discussed calls for the elimination of all gifted and talented programs in cities like New York. I can appreciate the calls for greater efforts to develop math skills in teachers in underrepresented populations. I hope that we are all committed to that goal. That does not require structural disruptions as opposed to outreach and supportive programs. It is the repeated calls to decolonize math that are the most concerning. Math has always been one of the greatest equalizers. And then he spoils it by saying, no pun intended. As I discussed earlier, it's a shame to see math treated as a field of privilege when many of us view it as a field of pure intellectual pursuit and bias neutrality. Either the math is there or it is not. The race of the mathematician will not change the outcome. Yeah. If you add up 2 and 2, I add up 2 and 2, and let's see, who could I think of? AOC, no, that's not a very good example, is it? She probably wouldn't come up with 4.
Her calculator ran out of batteries.
Yeah. Okay, so there we go with racism. Now, Dr. B wrote a column in the Sunday Post, and the title is DEI at Work Works. The concept embedded as philosophical components of each letter in the DEI acronym are essential for effectively accomplishing mission excellence in all sectors of organizational life. Let's look at each component. D is for diversity. We live in a multicultural reality which keeps getting more diverse by the day. Our customer base, village neighborhoods, and work teams in Guam are constantly changing. Such demographic shifts are impacting us as families and places of learning, recreation, worship, and at the polls. By making sense of these differences, we can ensure that diversity unites rather than divides. Changes in the population create tensions in organizations. These tensions tend to challenge our perceptions about the nature of things. They also create dangers and opportunities. Practicing the principles of DEI is not only a mission imperative for leading change in our multicultural society, it also reduces conflict and maximizes productivity. In the workplace, recruiting talent requires developing the available talent pool rather than the pool we wish we had to choose from. Oh, really? Hiring people who come from different backgrounds and experiences is one thing. Leveraging a diverse workforce as an organizational asset and preparing them for leadership roles is another thing entirely. Valuing diversity requires that we go beyond counting heads or representation to making heads count or utilization for accomplishing the mission and ensuring a competitive advantage. I wonder if he has some pointers from Kamala on this. The E in DEI stands for equity, a concept that is often thought to be synonymous with equality. We live in a stratified society. This complicates our need to recruit, develop, and retain talent for mission excellence. Equity recognizes that treating everyone as if they have the same needs does not work. The same needs. To each according to his needs, from each according to his abilities. Who said that? Was he?
Recall.
Was it Chico? Harpo? It was Carl.
Carl.
The most famous of the Marx Brothers. Yeah, one size does not fit all. This is where equity and equality differ. Equitable strategies celebrate differences and diversity of thought, capitalizing on opportunities to develop talent from groups who have not been represented in leadership circles. Now, this is a really long way of getting to say, you know, if you've got people that you can fit into some kind of identity group category, you need to make sure they make it to leadership because everybody's needs are not the same. This creates the kind of workplace which makes an organization the employer of choice. When the battle for recruitment is won, the war for retention must begin. Recruiters recruit, but it's the organizational culture that develops and retains. People do not quit their jobs, they quit their bosses. To be the employer of choice for talented employees with options, you need to love them or lose them. That's the title of the book by Beverly Kay and others. Their subtitle, Getting People to Stay. They caution, talented workers will leave a boss who is perceived to be unfair. Unfair, like doing promotions based on identity group politics. Unfair treatment translates to disrespect in many employees' minds. Check out your communication approach and your actions with your employees. How they view the decision and changes that you make. What seems fair or unfair to them? Do you honor their ideas and do you care about their reactions? If you don't, you will lose them. Now, is that something that was meant for another story? Because it doesn't seem to have much to do with DEI. The I in DEI is for inclusion. Including teams which foster diversity thought for personnel and mission readiness is the real goal. Resist the temptation of showcasing multicultural work teams for winning a public relations campaign. If you must choose between differences and talent, choose talent every time. Isn't that what meritocracy means? If you wind up with homogeneity and sameness, work to recruit and retain and qualify those who are different. In other words, if you got too many white folks, work to recruit others, right? Make the pipeline of talent development inclusive. Recruit talent from diverse institutions who are known for producing qualified men and women for diverse groups currently missing from your work teams. If inclusion is a desired outcome, then culturally driven mentoring is the process to make it happen. Culturally, maybe you could hire Dave Watts as a consultant on that one. Avoid the pre-selection of job candidates. This practice sabotages the goal of achieving diversity of thought at every level of the organization. Pre-selection through favoritism is hard to detect and may not be considered illegal, but is both unethical and immoral. The practice discriminates. He's against discrimination. The word gets around that the system is rigged in favor of insiders who are committed to keeping outsiders from becoming qualified. People are not born qualified. Organizational leaders must make the effort to coach and mentor across their comfort zones and social circles, race, gender, ethnicity, generation, sexual orientation, class, or ideology, from creating and sustaining inclusive, diverse, high-performance team. DEI at work works, but to achieve its promise, the process must be planned, resourced, and implemented consistently, deliberately, and purposefully with buy-in from all levels of leadership. This past week's celebration honoring Dr. King and his legacy sets the tone for taking DEI seriously. Yeah, well, we do have a First Amendment. Okay, next on the card, I suppose this is reverse diversity. Next on the card is USA Today versus Aloha. And I picked this up from USA Today. It is time to stop saying aloha and other culturally... Is it time to stop saying aloha and other culturally sensitive words out of context? You want to go to Wrigley Field, Jose? Yeah.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup,
including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
All three stations, all three morning shows. Thanks to all the listeners, Topeka's Best, Choice Broadcasting has swept the top three best radio stations. The Point, Boss 104, and Star 101. Top three radio personalities, Kyle Mandapat, Ray Gibson, and Daryl Lizama. Put the power of Pika's Best to work for you. If you're an advertiser, call 671-888-7346 for information, rates, and packages. And let us get your message out to Pika's Best listeners with Pika's Best Broadcasters. And thanks for listening to Pika's Best.
Okay, so here we go. Is it time to stop saying aloha and other culturally sensitive words out of context? Aloha, hola, shalom, afade. These are ways to say hello in Hawaiian, Spanish, and Hebrew, and I had Chamorro in just for drill. But just because you can say something doesn't mean it's always appropriate.
How dare you?
On the surface, simple greetings and phrases from other races and culture may seem fine to sprinkle into our vernacular, inclusive even. But did you know that aloha doesn't just mean hello or goodbye? It's a greeting or farewell, but the meaning is deeper, says Miley Arvin, the director of Pacific Islands Studies at the University of Utah. They have a lot of Pacific Islands in Utah.
There's a great Salt Lake.
Yeah, there's an island out in Salt Lake, palm trees, and the whole thing. One of my Hawaiian language teachers taught it to me as, quote, aloha means recognizing yourself in everyone and everything you meet. If you're not Hawaiian, and you say it, it could come off as mockery. And that's just one word to think about. You think there's anything whatsoever to this?
Did you see the other article I sent? But yeah, they have to find something.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the word aloha is just all over if you've ever been to Hawaii. Aloha Airlines.
It's a beverage brand.
There used to be Aloha Airlines. Were they canceled because it was a mockery? We live in a multilingual world. Of course, not all uses of language outside someone's culture are problematic. We live in a multilingual world where we're always influencing one another's languages practices, where we might come into contact with a variety of terms of language practices that we have not grown up with, says Nikki Lane, cultural and linguistic anthropologist. Intention matters most. Dropping hola or shalom to someone you know who speaks Spanish or Hebrew, for example, isn't something to worry about. Actively don a fake, exuberated accent and say those words, therein lies the problem. Now, I don't know if you've been watching TV about Alec Baldwin.
Oh, man, perfect example.
Yeah, perfect example. Well, Alec Baldwin has had a successful career as an actor. He's often cast as a jerk. It's kind of like the way John Wayne always plays John Wayne in every movie.
Alec Baldwin has a lot of practice in real life.
He does, yeah. It comes natural to him. And he shot someone. He shot someone to death on the set of a movie filmed in New Mexico. He took a pistol that was supposed to be a prop pistol, aimed it at someone, pulled the trigger, and killed that person. And there was a lot of hemming and hawing as to what should be done with Alec Baldwin. After all, he is a movie star, you know. So he was finally charged with involuntary manslaughter, which seems to me to be correct. And I suspect that he'll plead out, and he won't even have to spend a day in jail. He'll be given probation, fine, et cetera, right? So Alec Baldwin has been in the news a lot, and he's married to a girl from New Jersey whose name was something like, I don't remember exactly, but it was like Hillary Swenson. And she's as she's American as apple pie. There's just no people of color, people different race, different anything. She's just that. But she's made a trip or two to Spain, and now she pretends that she is Spanish. Spanish meaning a citizen of España. And she has this fake Spanish accent. And I watched her on TV last night, and it sounds like this. You know, my husband and my family are very sad because we are getting all of this very bad publicity, and it is very, very hard on my family. So please respect my family and I, and don't be talking about us all of the time, por favor.
Oh, Dios mío.
Yeah, I mean, te español, yo lo offended. Yeah, I mean, but again, it's a sign of the times. You can say things that are absolutely outrageous and get away with it because now it's impolite to call people on things that are absolutely outrageous, like our president and vice president. I mean, the things that Biden has lied about are just absolutely outrageous. And no one wants to call him on it because, well, you know. So
it's systemic racism. Everybody knows.
Yeah, systemic racism. Okay, so actively actively don a fake, exaggerated accent and say those words, therein lies the problem. Like saying ni hao to someone Asian American who isn't Chinese. This could be both othering and a microaggression. But what if you say ni hao and he says ni hao ma back to you? Would that be okay?
That should be okay. Why can't you say ni hao to anybody else who's Asian, even if they're not Chinese? I'm not getting this. I understand it's a mistake, but why is it a microaggression?
Oh, I see. Yeah, so if you say ni hao to someone who's Japanese,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, well, you know, all you guys look alike.
So if I said it to somebody from Mexico, it's not a microaggression? That sentence alone is a contradiction in an ironic sentence.
Really? Yeah. What we need is a critical consciousness in our public around language, says Jeffrey McCune, director of the Frederick Douglass Institute of African and American Studies at the University of Rochester. Language is too critical to our culture that we can't just casually use language in ways that might offend and or even do harm to certain groups of people. We're getting there, right? Yeah. You know, for instance, when Jack Kennedy was president, you know, the local comedians would say, I'll be in the bar in a minute, but first I got to park the car. People used to make fun of his Bostonian accent, when actually his Bostonian accent was a real advantage for him because it set him apart from the other candidates. You couldn't do that nowadays. You couldn't imitate a Boston accent and get away with it.
Unless you're Hillary Clinton and you're at a, quote, black church.
Yeah. Yeah, then you can.
I declare.
Yeah. Okay, then he goes on to say, it's the larger cultural considerations around the use of these words that matter most. I don't think the intention is necessarily to be offensive or anything, but for Native Hawaiian people, Hawaiian language banned in schools after the Hawaiian kingdom was overthrown, Arvin says. Considering how difficult it has been to keep the language alive, to see someone using it without respect is really difficult for that reason. Yeah. It's really something very helpful because it's another thing to bitch about. You know, we can't bitch about the overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom because nowadays no one really knows what we're talking about. But we can bitch about people using a word like aloha. Okay, think before you speak. These actions will help keep your language in check. Make an effort to befriend people from other cultures. Step outside your comfort zone and talk to people who do not share our values or our experience, says Sunny Rucker Chang, associate professor at the Center for Slavic, East European, and Eurasian Studies at Ohio State University. Slavic, I guess we can't tell Polak jokes anymore, Jose.
No.
You'll likely get a better feel for what's appropriate this way. Ask yourself why you're saying the term. Are you using the term because you want to say something besides hello or hey? Consider the cultural implications before you do, McCune says. Is it the benefit of the laughter and sarcasm and satire? Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Or is it genuine interest in being part of a cultural community that recognizes the historical meaning and historical significance of various terms? Language is really about power, says Rucker Chang, and I think that the person who is using these terms needs to be more aware of the origins of them. Avoid terms you don't know about. Once you learn, you might decide you don't want to use the word, because you see it as indexing certain things that have nothing to do with you and which might reproduce ideas in which you are not interested in reproducing. Educate, educate, educate. Whether it's the history of colonialism in Hawaii or other significant historical facts, knowledge helps fight ignorance. Really? Above all, if you feel uncomfortable saying something, don't say it at all without further research or consideration. It will save you and everyone some grief.
Hey, I want to say, God, we always get these articles and they always cite academia research. But have you ever seen the Man on the Street videos from like PragerU or somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
Where I watched one where this guy went to Chinatown in San Francisco, I think it was, bought himself a traditional shirt, I don't know what it's called, and a hat. And it was kind of stereotypical looking, went to a university campus, and all these people right off the bat were calling him racist and that's inappropriate and all this other stuff. But what was interesting that he had a couple of Chinese students come to him and said, oh, yeah, one kid came up to him and said, I recognize that. I grew up in Hong Kong. You got to remind me of my childhood. Well, is this okay? Oh, yeah, it's fine. Where'd you get it from? Chinatown? He goes, oh, yeah, okay, fine. And then he went to Chinatown and was going around asking people if this is okay if he wears it for Halloween. And they're like, please, we would love for you to wear it. This is not academia. This is people, regular people who live and experience the language and this wear. But we have to hear from academia that we have to be offended. And then it becomes an article.
Well, you see on the left, there's the idea of offense by proxy. Something perhaps doesn't offend a person, but it might offend something else. So when that lefty gets up and looks at himself in the mirror in the morning and says, what am I going to be angry about today? I got nothing to be angry about. But those people across the street, man, I'm going to be angry about them. Yeah, anger by proxy. And it's a way of kind of setting yourself above everybody else. It's a form of showing that you're better than others, holier than thou, however you want to express it.
The great example is Washington Redskins. There's another video where the guy went on a Navajo reservation, and it was very enlightening to hear how, and I'm sure there's people who are offended because they're told they have to be offended, but the majority of people he talked to there were like, I don't understand. Actually, the football team came to our reservation, and we're teaching our kids football. Redskins is the name that we gave them to use because it means something.
Yeah.
The other name that they were going to use meant nothing. And it's just incredible how academia puts their fingers in it, and it just ruins it for everyone.
Yeah, and of course, American Indians were called Redskins, not because of the hue of their epidermis, but because of the paint they put on their
Exactly.
faces. That's why they were called Redskins. And the irony is that all of the sports teams that have adopted Indian-style monikers, like the Braves and the Redskins and whatever.
Even Cleveland Indians.
The Indians, yeah. They've all done that because they want to identify with the courage and bravery of Native Americans. This is bad.
Not a mockery. And there are people who do things stereotypical to make fun of.
Yeah.
But the way that most of it is, to me, in my experience growing up as from a kid to an adult, is that it's honorable. But to put things like this, aloha, which every kid learns. I grew up in Hawaii as an elementary kid, and we learned these languages. I'm not from Hawaii, but we were encouraged to use it. But I was never told it had a deeper meaning.
Oh.
Where you see everything in everyone inside yourself. And I was like, I thought it just meant hello, goodbye, and it was a good greeting.
So when you walk into a place and you say half a day to people, that may be...
You better have a dissertation behind that word.
That might be maybe you better check with Michael Bavacqua on that one. Or it might be a microaggression, Jose.
I just don't know. Well, I find it funny that the microaggression was the example of another Asian American, but nobody else is microaggressed or mad about being said ni hao.
Well, it's just another iteration of identity politics. You can't deal with people just as people. You have to fit them somewhere into identity politics, and everyone must be divided into oppressor and oppressed. And then from there, the rest of the identity politics story plays out. In order to compensate the oppressed for all of the harms done to them by the oppressor, you must get into DEI and critical race theory and all the rest of that stuff. It's not an aimless pursuit. Okay, I've got ACLU versus Want, but I see somebody trying to get in here from the green room. And it's none other than our Carl, who wants to talk about identity politics. The most dangerous man in the room, none other than our Carl. Are you on a secret mission now, our Carl?
That's a secret, Bob.
I should have known better. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I saw a short video recently by Dennis Prager, just like a couple of minutes long. But he made the point to the former Australian Prime Minister, I think it's John Anderson, who has a podcast on YouTube. It's a very good one. But he made the point that the people who are driving, in this case, he was talking about the climate alarm movement, are vast majority very wealthy or upper middle class or even wealthy white people. And that pattern has gone back for decades. Thomas Sowell has commented that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, his longtime, decades-long partner in writing and doing their activism, were not proletariats. Ironically, they were bourgeois. They came from rich families, both of them, and they lived a rich bourgeois life. Friedrich Engels' father owned a factory in England, and he was a kept man. He was given a great deal of privileges because of his father's wealth. Karl Marx, his family was very wealthy. Marx lived virtually all of his life as a leech, sucking off of his family and friends through donations. He very rarely held any kind of solid work. He was just a leech. And that pattern has held true for many, many decades. I don't know what it is. There was this movement that was going on, I forget where it was, maybe it was in New York, where they were standing up to Wall Street. I forgot the name of it. But those kids were there in this park, there's like thousands of them, for weeks and weeks. And someone noted, who's got the money to go for weeks without working? They were living off their parents' money. They had fancy cell phones and thick down what do you call those
Parkas.
things?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, parkas.
That was Occupy Wall Street, Carl.
You sleep in, when you're going on a camping trip. They had a lot of plush stuff. So that pattern has held true for a long, long time. I don't know what it is, if it's just guilt, class guilt, that I'm getting so many privileges and people aren't, so I'm going to destroy this this system that has, given me this advantage. But I just wanted to chime in about that, about the driving force behind so many of these movements are rich, white activists.
The members of the Frankfurt School back in 1922 were all the children of very wealthy fathers, wealthy families, and never had to struggle for anything in their lives. And they're the creators of the world we're living in right now.
Yeah, and it's amazing considering, they've benefited so much, how they not just feel guilty about it, but they hate it. They want to destroy it. They want to tear it down. You know what they call it? Rip it up, root and branch, and destroy the existing culture and society, and especially the capitalist system, and build a utopian socialist heaven on earth from the rubble. And that's what I see going on. You know, ironically, we see it now, and I think it's in Georgia, right? There's riots going on there now.
Antifa strikes again.
Yeah, Antifa. And if you look at most of the people, the vast majority of people behind Antifa, they're white. Ironically.
I think one is also the child of an MSNBC anchor woman.
Oh, that I didn't hear about.
So
but I'm not
she's
surprised.
privileged.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Well, good points all, Carl.
Okay, Bob. It's always nice talking with you, and enjoy listening to your show as usual.
If I remember, the next time you call, I'll greet you by saying, aloha, Carl.
Oh, I will clutch my pearls.
Okay. So long, Carl. All right, let's head for Churchill Downs.
Looking for a new home or that special place to spend your retirement? Century 21 Realty Management has the place for you. Ladera Towers Condominium in Manila. Luxury living you deserve. Amenities like a gourmet kitchen, a large jacuzzi tub, private lanai with a magnificent ocean view, and 24/7 security. Other amenities, large swimming pool, couple of tennis courts, 3-bedroom condo units are available right now. This is an opportunity you should look at now before they're all gone. Call us now at Century 21 Realty Management, 647-5003, or visit the website, laderatowerguam.com or guamproperties.com.
Every company needs money to grow and take on the challenges 2023 will bring.
That's why Bank Pacific's commercial loan officers stand ready to help you.
We offer several programs tailored to assist companies to get to the next step or perhaps for a startup.
Including working with SBA or GITA.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches.
Bank Pacific.
We want to be your partner.
Equal opportunity lender. Member FDIC.
Credit conditions apply.
So here we are, Churchill Downs, and I climb into a transporter and go from Churchill Downs nonstop to Salt Lake City, Utah, when I run into none other than Johnny Utah, who wants to report on Antifa. Go for it, Johnny.
Yeah, to add on to the most dangerous man in the world's comments there, Jose, you guys were talking about the Antifa riots in Atlanta, and there were 6 individuals that were arrested. Only one of them was from the state of Georgia. All of them were white. The rest of them were from all across the country, and all come from wealthy Democrat families. But there's one that's very peculiar. Catherine Clark is a congresswoman in the House of Representatives. She's also the Democrat whip in the House of Representatives. And this is the kicker, her daughter, who, when you look at the picture, looks a lot like a man, was one of the ones who was arrested in Atlanta with Antifa. And there now is going to be investigations because the Republicans and the conservative caucus wants to link the finances between Antifa and the Democrat Party to prove that the Democrat Antifa is nothing more than a militant organization that is funded and supported by the Democrat Party and is a terrorist organization, which would make the Democrat Party a terrorist organization.
Surprise, surprise. Right, Johnny?
Yes, sir. And hey, and as for that Utah professor at the University of Utah, we're being invaded by Californians. The libs from California keep selling their $10 billion mansions so that they can move to Utah because they want the Republican economic lifestyle, and they're trying to impose their politics here. And it's happening across the United States in all states, including Florida, Texas. Wyoming, you name it. Every state that has a Republican lead or conservative lead in their economics and in their state legislatures, the liberals that are leaving California, because there is a mass exodus in California, they're invading all the other states, and they're bringing their politics with them. They're not leaving it behind.
Yeah, sad to say. They're trying to Californicate Texas, Californicate Florida, and Californicate Utah, right, Johnny?
Yes, but it's going to backfire on them. The numbers aren't going to work out, and people are just, the people are getting sick of it. The truth is coming out, and meritocracy will prevail. Rewards for doing a good job and good work, just like that British comedian said into the House in London. It's all about hard work, and that's what these kids have lost. They don't know that.
True enough, Johnny. Well, thanks a lot for chiming in again today. It's always good to talk to you from Utah.
Yes, sir. Thanks for letting me talk.
Yes, sir. Okay, we're getting down close to the time for me to say goodbye to our president. I've got another one of Biden's blunders here. I just want to comment on something that Peter Santos posted. Peter Santos says, language is public domain. I say Guten Tag and donkey shorts all the time. I lived in Deutschland for 6 years. He says Guten Tag, good day. Yeah. Dankeschön.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who was it? Wayne Newton?
Wayne Newton.
Made a career out of it. Boy, he would be canceled in a heartbeat today with his Dankeschön.
How dare he?
Yeah. Okay. The Tree of Life Synagogue, September 2, 2021, in the series of Biden's boners. In a meandering High Holy Days message to Jewish leaders, Biden fibbed about visiting the Pittsburgh congregation where in 2018, 11 people were slain in the nation's worst anti-Semitic hate crime. I remember spending time at the, going to the, the Tree of Life Synagogue, speaking with them, Biden said. The next day, the White House had to admit that Biden made the story up. Biden struggled with his memory throughout the virtual meeting with the rabbis. My mind is going blank now, he said, as he fought to recall details of his daughter Ashley's 2012 wedding. I would just correct him on one thing. He said his mind is going blank. I think that's a fact already in evidence, isn't it? But this is a classic example of what I was talking about a minute ago. People in public positions can lie with impunity and get away with it. Okay, it's time for me to say goodbye to the old fella. Here we go. Let's go, Brandon.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Another California mass killing. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News.
This kind of shooting is horrific. It's a tragedy that we hear about far too often.
San Mateo County Sheriff Christina Corpus on the murders of 7 people at 2 locations in Half Moon Bay, California.
Police discovering 4 gunshot victims dead. Then, just about a mile away, 3 other people also discovered shot and killed, where 2 nurseries, including a mushroom farm, are located on the property.
It's reporter Zach Sauce of Fox 2 in San Francisco, who reports the suspected shooter, a 67-year-old man, was arrested a short time later in the parking parking lot of a sheriff's office where he may have planned to surrender. The sheriff says they don't yet know the motive for the killings. Police in Monterey Park, California, east of Los Angeles, say they may never know why an elderly gunman sprayed gunfire into a crowded ballroom Saturday night, killing 11 people because the suspect took his own life.
Just because the suspect dies doesn't mean the investigation stops. We will conduct it as if it's a regular criminal investigation. That's the way these things work.
Monterey Park Police Chief Scott Weiss, Senate Majority Leader Schumer among those blaming the guns.
It's clear that the prevalence of guns in our country has made tragedies like this one too frequent.
President Biden issuing a statement praising California Senator Dianne Feinstein for introducing a bill that would ban so-called assault weapons. The president is being criticized even by some members of his own party for the unsecured classified documents found in his home.
Those documents shouldn't have been there. When I look at classified information, being on the House Armed Services Committee, I go to a SCIF and I have to give over my phone, and I'm not allowed to take any documents outside of the SCIF. So I really don't understand how those documents got into a personal residence.
California Congressman Ro Khanna. America is listening to Fox News.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network, the Fox News Rundown, a contrast of perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Your daily dose of news twice a day, going far beyond the headlines, tapping into the massive reporting resources of Fox News to provide a full picture of the news of the day.
I'm Dana Perino.
I'm Brett Baer.
I'm Maria Bartiromo.
I'm Brian Kilmeade, and this is the Fox News Rundown.
Subscribe and listen now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Hey, it's Will Kane, co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Join me as I share my thoughts on a wide range of topics, from sports and pop culture to politics and business. With the help of newsmakers and personalities, I will provide you my free, unfiltered, uncancelable opinion on the hottest topics in America.
The Will Kane Podcast. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts. America is listening to Fox News.
The so-called doomsday clock is being updated today.
The doomsday clock, which tracks nuclear and climate threats to the world, was last reset in 2020 when it was moved from 2 minutes to midnight to 100 seconds to midnight, the closest it's been since it was started in 1947. Midnight symbolizes the apocalypse in clock terminology, and the hands are a metaphor for how close the world is to destruction. This year's update of the clock, run by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, is the first since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The clock was furthest from midnight in 1991 when it was wound back 17 minutes following the end of the Cold War. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
The judge is set to hear arguments today on whether to release a report by a special grand jury that investigated whether then-President Trump and his allies broke any laws trying to overturn his narrow 2020 election loss in Georgia. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Robert McBurney will hear arguments from the district attorney's office and from news outlets. Still no agreement on extending the country's debt limit, which it reached last week, but a congressional committee will today consider troubles buying concert tickets.
After major issues involving ticket sales for an upcoming Taylor Swift tour led to the crash of its website, the head of Ticketmaster's parent company, Live Nation, will testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senators will hear about failures that included long delays in service and fans being locked out of both pre- and public ticket sales. Live Nation Entertainment's president and chief financial officer will be among those testifying at the hearing, where senators will look at promoting competition and protecting consumers. That includes seeing if Ticketmaster has too much influence in the live music industry. Singer-songwriter Clyde Lawrence of the sibling duo Lawrence is also scheduled to testify. In Washington, Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Weekly RX with Dr. Nicole Sapphire.
Sports are important for the physical and mental health of all of our kids, but they come with a risk of injury and can also exacerbate an underlying condition. Football, soccer, and basketball have the highest rates of sports-associated injuries. Head injuries are another concern, with football and hockey having the highest rates of concussion. Thankfully, with increased awareness and protective equipment, overall injuries due to youth participation in sports have declined since 2013. Generally, kids are safe to play sports and exercise without any concern for cardiac events, but a thorough physical exam and family history is crucial to identify those kids who might be at risk. The screening is designed to identify any child with an underlying heart condition that may make it unsafe to play sports. The takeaway message should not be to keep kids away from sports, but to make sure all preventative measures are taken to ensure the best and safest experience for the child. Dr. Nicole Sapphire, Fox News.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Look at the xenophobia and political authoritarian trends that have come from just a few million refugees. What about a billion? We would lose our capacity for self-governance on this world. We have to act.
We're fully cooperating, looking forward to getting this resolved quickly. I think you're going to find there's nothing there. I have no regrets. I'm following what the lawyers have told me they want me to do. It's exactly what we're doing. There's no there there. Thank you.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
Yeah, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America.
At Hour 2, Sean Hannity Show. Glad you're with us. 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. Friends and colleagues of mine at the Fox News Channel, they've been going through a lot lately. We lost one of our top executive news people at 47 years of age, and he had a heart attack. Great guy. We have a Fox News meteorologist. He was literally pummeled by a group of teenagers in New York City when he tried to stop them from harassing another subway rider, strap hanger as they call them, on early Sunday, and they just beat the crap out of him. I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's sad, but this